Welcome back. And so as you already heard, Sam and Colin specifically were tapped for this episode because, like most of the folks on this podcast, they're huge enthusiasts of the Nintendo Entertainment System back in the day.
My favorite console of all time.
There you go. There you go. Wave the finger. I saw that.
Still. And no one will ever beat it. It'll never be beaten.
They'll never take that from me. Yeah.
It's my job.
By a mile.
NES Remix is great, and it's a fun collection of sort of classic memories to come back to. But there's always the Nintendo games that, first of all, third parties aren't part of it, but more importantly, the underappreciated set, the set that we have fond memories of, but maybe the rest of the world doesn't have those memories. And so I figured that would be a good topic today to talk about.
It's a great topic. This could be a topic every week, and I'd be on it.
I told Jose it's my favorite topic ever.
Yeah, there we go. See,
it's the only topic.
Yeah. When it comes right down to it,
I've made Sam happy with this one. So yeah, let's go around the room. I mean, I didn't bring many to this discussion, by the way, because I had a lot of NES games as a kid, but my mom played very safe decisions. Like, it was always, I don't know who she was talking to at Toys R Us, but it was the Metroids, the Mario 3s. Like, she
That's cool. I thought you were going to say, like, safe as in, like, totally lame Bible games.
No,
Bible Adventures.
No Bible Adventures, none of that. She always got me, and I love this about my mom, may she rest in peace. She always got me the games that were, like, the cover of Nintendo Power, but she never looked at Nintendo Power, at least while I was looking over Nintendo Power.
Lucky.
So I didn't really have too many.
Those games.
Yeah,
I got some.
The only two that I would bring to this discussion are Rad Racer. I'm a big Rad Racer fan, and I'm not sure why.
1 and 2?
Just one.
2 has really good music. I'm just going to say that. But you can't choose the car.
Yeah, but I like the music in 1, and it was more about, like...
It's a trade-off.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've talked on this podcast before about how in the NES era, one of the things that at least sparked, my interest in Nintendo games especially was that games started to have soundtracks, and 8-bit sounding games, or the way I recognized them before NES, were just mechanical, and there wasn't really music to what was happening. But you'd play an NES game, and there was, Super Mario Brothers Diddy. There was even Gyromite had a kick-ass song, you know? Metroids, etc. And Rad Racer wasn't an exception there. And it was one of the few games I had that the idea of the gameplay was contemporary. It was a race. You were racing from point A to point B. God knows the city on the horizon line
looks so beautiful.
Never changed, but it felt
pretty,
really cool.
The night levels.
Yeah, and it would turn to night, and
if you drive for 10 hours, you get to it.
Well, yeah, and if you
that's something your older brother would tell you.
And I knew that in real life you couldn't hit a bumper and then wildly lose control of your car. The way remember you'd like slide from left to right,
yeah.
And depending on how much longer you were on the road.
Also, a palm tree would make you probably flip over several times and then right yourself.
Yeah, and it wasn't. This was what I played before, like Outrun, right? Which took this concept and made it a lot more colorful and a lot more vivid through better graphics
And turned it into a date.
Oh yeah, no, it's smart. Well, I'm sure there was a date in that car. You got to use your imagination.
You think so?
The windows were tinted.
Well, at the end, the girl comes up with a flag.
Oh,
she
that's
comes
right.
in. She flags you in.
Yeah,
That's the entire ending of the game too.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And even remember the 3D glasses that were in it with the cheesy little red and blue.
Did you ever get that to work?
Never.
I have a theory that never worked.
Yep.
Because
hype machine.
The colors didn't. It's a red and blue filter, and you never got that exact red and blue on your screen, so you couldn't really filter it that way.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. It was super weird. I tried it a bunch of times as a kid, and I just remember like taking the glasses off, throwing them on the ground. And,
also, 3D World Runner had those two. Those are the two games.
Yeah, that's right. So that's one I want to introduce. But why don't you guys? Who wants to go next? Like, what's another underappreciated?
Well, Brian shows like one of the top 10 most famous games of all time.
I did what?
Bobble?
That's not one of the top 10 most famous games of all time.
Come on.
Bobble?
Was like
really? That's hot in the streets?
Everybody loved it.
Bobble was trill for sure.
Nobody talks about Bobble anymore. Okay, first of all, this is why this topic's kind of skewed, because you talk to some people who are like 30-somethings, and they go, oh, man, you know what I loved? You know it's an underappreciated game? It's a real treasure. The Deadly Towers. And you're like, you're an idiot. You had bad
broader
games
bun, bruh.
Yeah, exactly. But there was a lot of people, you talk to people nowadays, they bring up NES games that they got as gifts, and you were lucky your mom made good decisions. But
Goonies
a lot of people's
2,
moms...
Jaws, those are my gift games.
Oh,
and Goonies
Jaws.
2 is a piece of shit. I'm sorry. People fight for Goonies 2.
Real quick, Goonies
my
2...
good friend Ryan Scott, I have to battle him on this all the time.
Just real quick, I told Sam this. Goonies 2 confused me for literally years.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what the fuck? When did the sequel come out? And why have I never seen the movie? I'd like go to the video store and be like, "Where's Goonies 2?"
Where's Goonies 2?
And he'd be like, "What are you talking about? There's no Goonies sequel." I'm like, "But there's an NES game called Goonies 2."
And I was like,
could-
what?
I could
And it has box art that looks like it's based on a movie poster.
Yeah, I literally
could
didn't know until like
I could
1999.
imagine the guys in the movie store like looking out the window going, "Oh damn, it's that Moriarty kid again."
Just give him that TV version with the octopus in it.
I always thought there was like a Goonies 1 video game in Japan because we never got a Goonies 1 video game.
There was, yeah.
There was?
But we didn't know that.
We only got it in the Play Choice machine. I have it. Oh. It's amazing. It's like a cross between like arcadey Donkey Kong and a Castlevania. It's such a good game.
Wow. Yeah,
come over and play, man.
That was
So good.
that was never reported to us as children.
Really
No, that's what I'm saying. We were totally ignorant
Yeah.
about what was going on over
Yeah.
there.
No, I'm
It was the
serious, man.
best.
There was like growing up. It was like the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, professional wrestling, Santa Claus, and then finding out Super Mario Brothers 2 was a lie. That was the top 5 biggest bullshit lies you could tell a kid in the 80s. Was that? It was difficult. So one of my favorite games of all time is Bubble Bobble, and I'm sorry, this is the first I've ever heard of that being something that's like.
Wasn't that in our like top 20 NES games?
Yeah, it is now in a list written by us.
So it's rated.
I mean, most people in general, most people our age, if you go, hey, write a list of your top 20 NES games, most of them will not say Bubble Bobble, the story about those 2 dinosaurs that go underwater to the Cave of Secrets to rescue their girlfriends, and 5 levels in realize they don't even remember who their girlfriends were. It's not even about that. The reason it's one of my favorite games of all time is because Bubble Bobble perfectly balanced co-op and competitive gameplay between 2 players. And I feel like
Gotta eat that food.
yeah, almost no games really did that like this at the time, where you're like, we're working together, but I'm also constantly screwing my friend over.
You get
Ice
extra
Climber.
lives for points.
Ice Climber did it.
Ice Climber was a piece of shit.
You need to back that up.
Ice Climbers is
Absolutely not.
It's something.
It's one of the worst.
No,
It's
not
an
in my
NES
house.
remix.
Ice Climber is one of the worst experiences you
It
can
made
have
it
with
into
a
NES
television
remix, so
or
it
a
matters.
controller.
I'm gonna fight everyone on this. That
A
was
game
one
about
of
jumping
my
where you can't jump.
where you don't not where you can't jump, where you don't jump well, or where like
Ice
the
Climbers
clipping
is
you would
like
pass
if
through
all the food
a
at McDonald's
platform.
was made of rocks.
Hey, you
You're
know
like,
what?
all I want to do is eat.
You know what the
Can't
internet
do
taught
it.
me? Haters want to hate.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, Ice Climbers isn't terrible, but Ice Climbers reminds me of going to my grandma's house when I was a kid. Her neighbor was like our age,
Yeah.
and he was one of those kids that had every NES game, and I would always go to his house and we'd go into the basement and like he had like the whole shelf and the thing. And that's when I was introduced to Ice Climbers. Like, what in the hell is this game? You know, like I was like angry about it.
Yep.
I'm like, what is this game? It was like 1988 or something like that.
It's
and I'm like, I
awful.
just want to play Mega Man.
Yeah.
You know, and
You got Bionic Commando.
'Cause that was the kid that
Mega
introduced me to Mega Man.
2,
Yep.
and Ice Climber.
Yeah, there you go.
My favorite thing about Bubble Bobble is that all the power-ups and all the items in that game, they're all food. It's all snacks. It's like pretzels
And then there's like
candy canes.
Then there's like a
and-
weird crucifix.
Oh, and then there's weird religious, like, then all of a sudden it's like, hey,
a
here's
book.
Here's a Satan book.
And it kills everything.
Have a lollipop.
I'm surprised that even made it in, just considering Nintendo
Yeah.
was really quick to
It
be
made
like,
no sense.
Nope.
And it's one song for
Yeah.
over 200 levels.
But it's a
Because
goddamn great
once
song.
you beat the first 100 levels,
Yeah.
it starts over again.
And it plays it for 100 levels. And then when you beat the 100th level, they go, here's 60 more levels.
Sometimes I consider us lucky we got a crucifix in Castlevania.
That's what I was going to
because of the
say.
way Nintendo
Castlevania was the one they
about
turned
it.
a blind eye to in like a major way. I don't know
No,
why
they
or how.
covered.
They
They
did
covered
change
up
it.
some of it. We talked about it when we had that episode.
Yeah,
like,
but
there was
not all of it.
nudity
Like
on
they
the-
still
on the
had the
main screen.
rosary
They
and
couldn't
like
get that far.
you could at the
rosary,
church in Castlevania 2, and then you
Yeah.
pray at the cross in the beginning of Castlevania 3. There's like
kneel.
all
You kneel.
you kneel.
Yeah.
Every now and then they'll get there was a titty in Mega Man 3.
There's a raccoon with giant balls in many Super Nintendo
That's
games.
true. Yeah, that's true.
So-
I never understood that.
The Tanuki balls,
Yeah.
they're all over these weird Super Nintendo games.
This just got dark.
Go
Sorry, if you have
So-
kids, take them away from this podcast now.
No, you can bring
Tanuki
them back. We're
balls,
good. We're good.
They're
gonna
It's
see
the
you
reality
someday.
of life. You're going to learn one way or the other.
Just go to a yard in Japan. They have them all over. So it's true. It's like their lawn gnome is the Tanuki with
No,
giant
no,
nuts.
that's right.
So my favorite thing about Bubble Bobble is that if you play co-op, that's the only way to see the real ending.
Yeah.
And to do it on the 99th level, you have to have one person get a key
Yep.
and one person get a door.
Yep.
And then like it goes to like seizure graphics, and then there's like these secret levels after it, and it's so cool.
But they never tell you
no,
that.
they didn't. I didn't know that until I was like in college.
Most people beat level 99, the same way they do everything else. They kill everything with the bubbles.
And the boss is hard.
And then the boss is impossible, and you beat it, and it goes, bonk, 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 and it's like, you got bad end. Go to door find. And you're like, what the fuck does that mean?
And you didn't learn the secret of happiness. And
Yeah. So if you beat the game alone, you get the bad ending no matter what, because like one of the girlfriends just dies on the vine, and you're like, you better get some friends. Like the game actually insults you. It's
it
like, come
doesn't
back
really
with a friend.
happen.
Yes, it does. They
She
get really
doesn't
mad at you.
die.
She doesn't live.
She doesn't exist.
Wow.
She neither lives nor dies.
Yeah.
All right, so someone else. What else we got? What other games you guys want to talk about? Underappreciated.
Well, I have 3, but the first one I brought was Fester's Quest. Now, there's a lot of haters about this game. There's a lot of haters about Fester's Quest. But what I and that's
I love
fine.
the Colin point.
I know, it's so good.
But what bothered me about Fester's Quest was that was one of the games more than many others. Not the only one that did it, but that
just gonna
made
play
you
Game Boy while I
that
talk
made you
about
feel
this.
really, really good when you beat it. You could beat it in like an hour if you know what
Nobody
you're
here
doing.
beat it.
My brother definitely beat it when we were kids,
There's
for sure.
a good Nintendo Power issue that's helpful with it, actually.
But I never beat it personally. But I loved playing it. What I liked about it, it was different because it's like this kind of top-down kind of, you're exploring the town, and the enemies, and there's like all these weird glitches and like obnoxious shit, like the slimes that come back over and over again, all that kind of stuff. But then you go into the houses, and like then it's first person, and you're like going through the houses, and you just randomly run into bosses and
Goonies
stuff.
too.
Yeah, and
Or Friday the 13th. Sorry.
exactly. And I love that the game. I just remember the game felt good when you understood it. Like this was a game we would rent, and you would put it in, you get a little further, and yeah, the game kicked you back to the beginning when you died, and like all this kind of stuff.
Even though it was a Zelda-like and really long.
Yeah,
It's strange.
it just something about Fester's Quest. I was just like, a lot of people really hate that game, like vehemently hate it.
I liked it when I was
but
a kid.
like, first of all, it comes from Sunsoft, which is I think the most underrated developer / publisher in the NES era. Not the best, but certainly the one that no one talks about.
They had the Looney Tunes license.
Especially because Batman, which is so very good, and another
Right.
game they did, which we'll talk about in a little while. But yeah, just like Fester's Quest, I think that game could use another look from people today, just to see like what they were trying to do. Yeah, it used the Addams Family license, which is irrelevant. Yeah, like it used Fester, which is probably the most irrelevant of
Let me
anyone
tell
in
you
that cast.
something. Fester was the creepiest member of that family. Like he's just like
Even
visually,
creepier than the hand.
To me, yes.
No,
he
it
was
was a woman covered in hair, head to toe.
What was her name?
cousin it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the
it.
creepiest. That was
Yeah.
horrible.
Well, I don't know. I just found Fester like grotesque looking, so I just remember looking at the game. I don't know, but I knew people who liked it. So
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
not trying to take away
it just
from
kind
that.
of filled me with wonder as a kid.
you
Like,
can get a good spread gun in that game.
yeah, well, you could get a whip and all this. Like it was like once you got far enough, you felt more powerful. And it filled me with wonder in the sense that there's this kind of expansive inventory, and yeah, the game's a little archaic and kind of even broken a little bit, but like I like that game a lot, and it's certainly not one of the best NES games by any stretch of the imagination, or even like a great NES game, but certainly an underrated NES game, Fester's Quest.
You mentioned something very interesting, which was that like your brother could sit down and beat that game in an hour, and there was like something really awesome about that. I remember like going to school and having a crappy day and coming home and beating DuckTales in 45 minutes and just being like, man, that was incredibly rewarding. Now on to dinner. Like you can't really do that with games so much anymore, and I actually kind of miss that. I miss being able to sit down and playing a game like Fester's Quest from start to finish in under an hour, and being like, "There's the credits. I did it. I beat the game."
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know if you beat it in an hour. I was saying you can beat it in an hour. I went back and watched. There's a guy that puts up playthroughs on like full playthroughs, not commentator or anything. He just plays NES games on YouTube. And I went and looked for his
I'm
for
sure
Fester's
there's more
Quest.
than one guy that
Well,
does
but like his is the top search. Every time you search for just Fester's Quest or you search for anything, it's always his stuff first.
Every time you search for Fester's Quest.
Yeah, like he puts like the numbers in brackets. He does them in order. I don't know. I can't remember the guy's name.
Oh, you're talking about Crontendo?
I don't think that's what it is, but
Oh, okay.
it's
Just checking.
But he just plays the games from front of the back. He's really good at them. And I watched some of his Fester's Quest playthrough just to kind of jog my memory about some of the things that I was forgetting about it. And he beat it in like 56 minutes. I was like, I didn't know you could beat it that quickly.
Wow.
But I remember my brother had loose leaf papers that were stapled together, and he would write down the games he beat on them, and I think he still has it somewhere or whatever. And that was and so he would just write them in order. That he beat them or whatever. And Fester's Quest was one of those games, and yeah, I just have fond memories of that game. I don't think it's a great game. It's definitely not a game I'd go back and like really want to play. Like I'd want to play Castlevania 3 or even some of the other games I'm about to mention, which I think are actually amazing games. But yeah, I think that's an underrated one.
All right. Go ahead, Sam. What do you got?
All right. So, picture a cabin that kind of looks like an outhouse, and a giant disembodied head flies out of it, and then the head turns out to be really big and destroys a city. That's a little game called Zombie Nation.
Yeah, that game's so weird, man. That game's so weird.
By the one-off developer, Meldak.
What? That's their name?
Meldak. Just like the planet from Alf, Melmac, with the D. Meldak. So,
Meldak.
Yeah. Zombie Nation is a really... It's not that late, but it's a 1990 NES game. I never played at the time. But I found the cart a while ago, and it's really actually incredible. It has, like, Rampage-style deformation of buildings. So it's like... whatever you hit, it's like that part of the building like blows away. It's like amazing looking on the NES. Mm-hmm. It's like it'll be a big skyscrapers, and you're flying through them, and there's all these like beams of spotlights in the background and stuff. And basically, you're a big samurai head that like fires something out of his forehead and kills stuff. It doesn't make any sense, but it's not that too much of a B game. It's just in theme it is, because the game actually plays pretty nicely. And there's these little people all over, and you're just destroying them and killing them. But apparently, they're zombies. I don't know what the samurai head has to do with it, but he appears in a wishing well in the beginning, and it's a very big head.
Oh God,
that's about all I can tell you about
and it also had one of the most amazing box arts you'll ever see, ever.
Wow.
I'm not making this up.
Yeah,
I
funky,
the graphics are really cool, and it's fun to play, and it's just like totally crazy.
What happened?
And
in
it
Meldak?
came to America. I mean, I don't know.
Meldak's showing on that Zombie Nation royalty check.
That was it. That's all they needed.
On Melmac. That's my album.
I remember.
Really?
So I remember in 2008 when we were making the NES, the best NES games of all time list. I think it was 2008 or 2009, and you and I were on that.
This is number 100.
Yeah, and there were certain games that we had never heard of or we were playing. And I remember we had a PSP with an emulator, so that everyone can like kind of experience some of these games, make sure we remembered them properly and weren't filled with just nostalgia and stuff like that. And this was one of those games I'm like, what the hell is like? I've heard of almost and played most, I think, NES games that were released in the United States, and I was like, I don't know what the hell this is. I don't remember that box. I don't remember this theme. I don't remember anything about this game. I don't remember this game being in Nintendo Power. I don't remember that game being in Nintendo Power either.
Yeah, I remember we talked a lot about Little Samson at the time too, because that's another like super obscure game that's actually really good.
But yeah, that game wasn't bad. It reminded me of that. What was that other game we just? It's not one of the games we're going to discuss, but remember what was it called? Galaxy 8000 or something like that. Remember it was like
Abadox?
Abadox is we dug up the friggin' some of the obscure ones.
Yeah, we got to start with Abadox. It's the first game on the list.
Yeah. Well,
actually,
we got to go alphabetically.
6 and 1 is Caltron 6 and 1, but in terms of alphabetizing,
that's a good choice, I think.
Okay,
I'll stop now.
So I just did a little searching on Meldak, and if Wikipedia is to be believed, I just want to put this out there. Meldak is a Japanese music and video game company. Apparently, they produce albums for Jennifer Love Hewitt called Love Songs and another album called Jaywalk. And they made games on the Nintendo Entertainment System, including Zombie Nation, U.S. Championship Volleyball. I never heard of Heianko Alien, Heikyo Alien. I don't know what that is. King of Rally, Super Pinball, and Astro Go-Go. Just putting that out there for context.
That is the weirdest Wikipedia page anyone has ever written.
I almost don't believe it. 'Cause I'm like, and love songs from Jennifer what?
I believe it.
Yeah.
It exists.
So weird. All right.
The game is great.
Good choice.
I'm not going to say great, but it's
good.
It's significant because I think it's the weirdest NES game.
It is bizarre.
That and Chubby
sounds absolutely bizarre. Yeah. All right, Brian. Good.
Oh,
what's another one? Yeah. What's another one?
So I'm gonna name a little game called Life Force.
Oh, that's a good one.
I don't know.
That's not obscure.
Salamander, right?
No one played Life Force.
That was like the best game.
Everybody played it. A bunch of man babies in the 30s 2 years ago put it in the top 25 best things.
I had that game when I was a kid, but I didn't know anyone else that really had it.
I have a sealed copy of it.
Nice.
You're an anomaly. You're not part of the regular.
You have a sealed copy of Life Force? That's fucking baller, dude.
Yeah. Very nice.
It was called. What was it called in Japan? Salamander.
In Europe, I thought it was called that.
Yeah, Salamander's I think a different game in the arcades in America. But there's also Gradius 2, which is a different game. Mm-hmm. It's kind of confusing. I'd have to look it up at this point, actually. But yeah, those are...
Raifu Fosu. That was it.
Yeah, I think it came out there. Right?
So Life Force was kind of like a way better Gradius. Wow, no one got mad at me for that.
Nice.
You could have heard a pin drop after that one. Keep going.
So it had co-op. That was the big deal.
It had co-op. Again, that was like a running theme for me. I really liked games with co-op back in the...
Great life
I had two younger brothers, so if my mom could get us a game that could get two of us or three of us staring at the screen at the same time and not like breaking windows and shit like that, then that was a win. So Life Force was amazing because it was side-scrolling and top-down, and the levels alternated. It was sort of like if Contra was in a ship and not just two men with jeans on. And it had
Or without jeans.
Or without jeans. Ooh. And it had the Konami code.
That'd
And
be Choaniki.
Contra was one of those games where I knew people that could sit down and beat Contra without the Konami code, and they were crazy good at that game. But Life Force is one of those games that if you could beat Life Force without the Konami code, like, you should be making video games.
Yeah, Life Force is tough.
Life Force is hard as hell. It's also like, it didn't really have a theme that made sense, which was kind of interesting about it. Like, some levels, it was taking place in space, and some levels you were inside of a giant human body. And then you were just like
it's the same
fighting.
idea as Gradius. There's kind of like weird space junk that you're.
And then you were like, "Oh, we better fight the pyramids." Like, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And
So
at the
cool.
end, typical NES ending. That spoilers. Something blows up, and Lance and Ricky or whatever in their ships fly away. And
Well, the final level is really interesting because it's actually like a robot
Yep.
landscape, like a giant Death Star type thing, and
it ends in a speed
and
run.
you go faster.
Yeah.
Like your ship's going to overdrive.
Yeah, it goes
Super
incredibly
cool.
fast. It's got this sort of like Metroid-esque escape sequence
Yeah.
where everything goes really quick and you're rushing out of there as fast as possible and everything blows up. But it's got a cool sort of level up system. Like every 7th enemy that you hit in a line drops a power up. You can get it and you can choose to catch that power up in whenever you want. So you can use it on speed. You can use it on ripple or like spread or missiles around you or invulnerability and stuff like that. So eventually you get this ship that's like completely maxed out on every level, and you crash into something once and you lose everything. So I always played it with the 30-man code because you pretty much had to. And I don't know if that's sexist to say 30-man code, but
No, well. So what Life Force invokes with me, that's one of my brother's favorite games. And again, people know if they've heard me talk about, like, my brother was like everything to me when I was a kid in terms of like, well, a lot of things, but in terms of NES, like, I learned everything I know about NES from him, and like, we played together, and he taught me about all these great games, and Life Force was like his shit. He loved that game so much. And what I remember about Life, so there are NES games like Ninja Gaiden or Gaiden. Sorry, I'm always gonna call it Ninja Gaiden though.
Me too.
Where
I call it Ninja the Gaiden.
the cutscenes in Ninja Gaiden are fucking horrifying, right?
Yeah.
Like, they used to scare the shit out of me,
Yep.
right?
Like
and
the demon stuff?
like when you saw what's the bad guy's name in Ninja Gaiden? I can't remember. The purple dude.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see him for the first time, I'm like, holy
idea.
shit!
yeah,
like,
they're really
and, like,
dark. And they were letterboxed and everything.
I was like horrified. And then like in Castlevania, like there's like literal horror where it's kind of got like an atmosphere or whatever. I felt like Life Force felt ominous to me when I was a kid. Like, there was a real ominous feel to that game. I'm not sure like what it was. It seemed like it was slow and deliberate and like. It was a pretty game, but like I just felt like the game had a horror feel where it probably didn't have a horror feel. Like, I felt like it was
I felt
kind
that
of
way about Legendary Wings. I was like freaked out by that game. Did you play that?
yeah,
game?
that's a good game.
You go inside, that mouth would open up, you get swallowed, then you're inside guts.
Yep.
Did you ever play that?
Yep.
Same idea. It's really strange.
So that's
Freaked me
what
out.
it invokes for Life Force. Invokes that for me.
I felt like if you were a kid in the 80s and you walked into a store and you pointed at Life Force and you took a risk on that box, and that box was basically a spaceship.
It's a dragon on fire.
Fighting a snake dragon surrounded by fire.
Yeah.
If you took a risk on that, like, you were going to grow up to be a real man someday. Because you were like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Like, you're probably covered in tattoos now, or you're in prison somewhere, or you're me on this show.
Yeah.
It was just a fantastic game. I think it really holds up still. So
Well,
if
and
you have a
it's
chance,
it's a shooter.
Yeah.
It's like a comp. It's one of the best shooters ever
Yep.
made. Like,
Yep.
it's just like
Yep.
if you can play it the right way without using the code, then you were prepared for a genre.
yeah,
Because
totally.
every game is based on that and Gradius.
Yep.
I mean, those
Yeah.
are in the Scramble and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Yep.
Ninja Gaiden's bad guy, Jacchio, I think was his name, right?
Oh,
right.
yeah, that's
There you
right.
go.
Not a scary name.
Yeah. By the way, there's probably someone in prison somewhere writing Life Force fan fiction to pass the time
All right.
about Ricky and Lance.
Ricky and Lance, or whatever.
Yeah.
I always wonder what those dudes thought when their planes landed. Like, what the fuck
The
was
Vic-
that?
In Gradius, it's the Vic Viper.
Did you fight that brain with the
Yeah.
eyeball and the hands? Yeah, man, that was crazy.
I like
didn't
the-
sign up
Oh,
for
that's
this
a
shit.
good one.
Yeah, I like the reference to the Vic Viper when they brought that back in. Oh man, what was that Kojima produced mech like battle? Oh man, Zone of the
Gear?
Enders. No, Zone of the Enders 2. They brought back the Vic Viper, but it was like a transformable. It was a transformer. It turned into a
Yep.
big mech robot.
He
He was
that would
also
flip back into
he was also in
ship.
Konami Crazy Racers, which was a kart racing game
Yeah.
for the Game Boy Advance.
Yep. Yeah.
There's
Okay.
that garbage in my mind.
So I'll quickly throw this one out there, but I don't know if you guys remember it, and I don't have much to really say about it, but I did have very fond memories for it because it had, I thought, really cool graphics at the time. Was a Cobra Triangle.
Oh, the boat game?
Yeah, that was the one. It was isometric perspective. You had a boat on it, so the box had a big dragon coming out of the water, and the boat just like rushing towards it, and
That's
whatever.
Everything
so
at
awesome.
dragons.
God, I
Yeah.
missed that.
Yeah, box art was the best.
Everything was a dragon
so
in the late 80s, for sure. But I remember I was always a fan of games where, especially games where you pilot something and can look really good when you did. And even though it was from an isometric perspective, sort of like RC Pro-Am, the idea was that you were just kind of switching, sliding around, getting your shots in. And then when you saw the dragon sprite on screen, it looked really good. And I remember going, oh, this is really cool looking. And I also just remember it being really hard. And I think you only had like 2 moves, there was only 2 buttons, right? A and B, but like jump and fire. And I don't remember much outside of it, so I'm not going to waste too much time on it. But I do recall having a lot of fond memories for it, and I just don't hear enough about it. And so I didn't realize this until recently. It was made by Rare.
Really?
Yeah, I did not
know that.
Yeah, I did not know that, and I think that's
they
really
made
cool.
60 games for the NES.
Yeah, RC Pro-Am was also one of them. Yeah,
I didn't know that. We should do a top 60 rare
Yeah, I
NES
know.
games.
Order them. Anticipation,
That
number
would be
1.
misleading. There in Cobra Triangle, it's kind of interesting because you're actually presented with a series of challenges. That's almost like NES Remix. They're short and then they get longer and longer.
Yeah.
It's not just like an adventure game or something. It's like go through these.
Yep.
I like that.
Cool. All right, so Colin, take it over to you.
Journey to Silius is my next game.
This again.
Yeah, so Sam gets so mad because I'm like borderline obsessed with Journey to
It's funny
Silius.
because we talk about
Yeah,
it all the
yeah, we do because it's so good. Like
time.
so-
A Terminator game.
Yeah, so exactly. So this is a Sunsoft game, and again, totally underrated publisher / developer. The game was in development, and it was supposed to be a Terminator game. And when the game was being developed towards the tail end, whoever owns the rights to Terminator was like, no, we're not doing this anymore. So they had to like redo some of the art assets in the story. So your character
They hired Orson Scott Card.
Yeah, so the character's name is Jay McRae in the game. And so the game is like really, it's short. You can beat the game really quick. I think it's like 5 or 6 stages long, so like the original Castlevania kind of. And if you're good at it, you can get through it pretty quickly. But the game is like really slick and like really fluid. It's a fun side-scrolling shooter. Kind of in the vein of Mega Man, not nearly as good, but it's very similar to that. It feels good. It feels nice. It's hard.
You can't choose a level though, right?
No, you go in order.
Left to right.
And what the hallmark of Journey to Silius is the soundtrack. The soundtrack in that game is absurdly good, like Capcom level good. And it doesn't sound like a Capcom soundtrack, but it's that good. And so I can hear the music in my mind. It's like really deep and like ornate and very good. So I implore people to go and give that game a chance. The box art's pretty cool for that game. We were betrayed by some.
McRae?
No, we call it McRae Cray. So
Jay McRae.
Jay McRae. We were betrayed. Yeah, we were betrayed by box art a lot when we were kids.
Deadly Towers.
Deadly Towers is the epitome of that because Deadly Towers is the coolest box art in the worst NES game.
Thank you.
I bought that game. I had that game.
Combination is the worst box art and the coolest
Yeah,
NES game.
it's funny how that always works. Deadly Towers. I have Deadly Towers, so like I feel for you. With that game, but yeah, so Journey to Silius is a great game, an authentically great game, and I implore people to go and try to figure out if they can get the cartridge or emulate it, whatever it is you do. If I don't know if it's even available on a virtual console.
I doubt it. What happened to Sunsoft?
I don't know. Sunsoft still exists, I think, but I think that they're they haven't done games I think since the SNES era. I think
they
made
published Lemmings.
Yes. I think I researched them a little while ago, maybe like a year or two ago. I was just reading about them, and I don't remember the ins and outs of it. But I think that they did some stuff in the SNES era, maybe up to the mid '90s, maybe with PS1 even.
They did all the Looney Tunes games.
And they had the Looney Tunes
Road
license.
Runners, Death Valley Rally.
And then they disappeared. I think they still exist, but I think they're like a holdings company now or something like that. I implore people to go play Journey to Silius because Journey to Silius and Batman are Sunsoft's best NES games, and Batman's extraordinary. Like we always talk about how it's so awesome to have a cool Batman game from this great trilogy, or at least the first 2 Arkham games, and how bad, people think licensed games were. Well, Batman was authentically awesome on NES.
Oh my god, yeah.
And it's funny that it took Batman to bring it back. Batman was a great licensed game back in the day.
Yep,
It's a great licensed game again. Journey to Silius.
All right, cool. Sam?
I was going to talk about Wizards and Warriors.
Oh,
but...
we can't talk about Wizards and Warriors?
Yeah, you got to talk about that Fabio cover, man.
Okay, well, let me just end cap the thing. Another shooter is Stinger, and it was another Konami game, and it's really, really good.
I had Stinger growing up.
I think it's related to Twin Bee.
Yeah, it's incredibly weird game.
Yeah, the bosses are like a watermelon. And
it was
a wishing well.
It was totally like the cartoon lighthearted Life Force, or
and it had
something
this
like
great
that.
system for power-ups. So you had to shoot these bells,
Yep.
and then you have to keep them up. Anyway,
it was a shmup where you juggled.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Main boss of the
And
first level was a watermelon that spit seeds at you.
Yeah. And then there's top down and side scroll.
Yep.
Like Force.
Yeah.
Right? Or is that all top down?
No, same thing. Yeah, they switched off.
So, Wizards and Warriors is a game. It was Rare's second game for the NES after Slalom, which is a black box first-party published game. They made games that early. A company in England made a black box NES game. That blew my mind.
Yeah, it's wild.
Why don't you tell folks what a black box is real quick if they don't know?
The first round of NES games, Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, Gyromite, Stack Up, volleyball, tennis, baseball. They're all pinball. They all come in a black box with just like a blown up version of like a sprite in the game and a background.
Yeah, like
And
the
that was
worst box
really-
art. I mean, it's
yeah.
awesome now, but like that is like
Well, no, but it was very deliberate because they didn't want to mislead you with what you were getting, right?
Yeah.
They basically were showing you this is what it looks like, okay? And that was, you knew by the box art what you were
in a
getting.
series. There was sports. I don't know.
action
They had
and
education with Donkey Kong Jr.
Yeah,
Math.
because look at Atari. Atari had some of the best box art in some cases, and the game looked nothing like it.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
River
never
Raid,
been
man.
around to
Yeah.
But yeah, then they made Wizards Warriors, which had awesome box art. It was a Conan the Barbarian
Yeah.
knockoff. Actually, I just looked this up. The actual name of this game in England is so funny.
Oh,
Or, I mean, not in England, in Japan.
Oh.
Do you have it pulled up?
yeah, Densetsu no Kishi
Elrond.
Elrond. Yes. Okay. Do you know what that means specifically? Is it Wizards and Warrior, or is it
Well, I know
Elrond just-
Elrond is the elf in Lord of the Rings
Oh,
that
there you
lives
go.
in Rivendell.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
Which
way to
is-
go, Nintendo.
which
You
I
got away
never-
with that one.
I never
Nice work,
understood the
guys.
connection
Tolkien's
there.
estate's not paying attention to what's going on over there.
Published by Acclaim. That's who would have paid. Actually, in Japan, it was published by Jalico.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
time I remember even knowing the company Acclaim, rest in peace.
Is it Jalico? I always thought it was Jalico.
I called it Jalico too.
I called
man.
it Jalico.
There was the East Coast thing, you know. It
Like
was
Mario.
like Ninja Gaiden. And
I grew up on the
Gaiden
East
and
Coast. What are you talking about? I called it
Nobody
Jalico.
knows how to pronounce Jalico or Jalek. Nobody. There's no right way to do it.
It was
The
Jalico.
company's gone. Nobody ever knew.
Well, I called it Ninja Gaiden and Ryu.
Yeah, Ryu.
And I came in. and it was
Ryu
like,
and Ninja Gaiden.
Ninja the Gaiden. You guys remember that it had the Japanese, but it looks like it says the.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever get that?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sorry.
Wizards of Warriors. It has really good, cool, like looking fantasy graphics, and they have like a big level you can explore one at a time, like a big explorable XY area, you know, and then there's like you start in a forest and you go underground, and it has really cool music. But you're this knight, and the knight is animated really well. His name is Kuros, and it's just like the whole look of that game looks like a high-end PC game from that time.
Yeah.
like it just looks amazing.
It looks really good.
And
It also
it's really early. It's like
you mentioned
87.
music. That's another game that really only had like 2 or 3 songs in it. Like that was it.
It's
was
weird once you like kind of you can figure out the game by like you have to get a key and you have to go in a door. Like there's stuff like that, but you just find that in the level. It's not too difficult. But once you get everything, it plays like a victory song, and it's so good.
The reason you can figure out everything in that game is because it did something that was completely different from NES games at the time, which was it gave you lives, but they didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like you would die and you'd start right where you died, and then you'd get a game over and it'd be like, "Thou hath died." And you'd hit start and you'd come right back where you were. Like you never had to go back to the title screen. So basically, you could play
Because
the game
it was
for
more puzzle based.
Yeah, totally. And there was a blue key, a pink key, and a red key in every level. And
Now,
you
you
just
know
had
this
to,
game.
Yeah. Oh my
Nice.
god, I played it like crazy. When you said you were going to talk about it, it was like that's one that is not on my list because it's on yours. I played the shit out of Wizards and Warriors.
Did you play the sequel?
Iron Sword or whatever.
That was the one with Fabio on the cover, so I misspoke earlier. That was the one
So
that's
who was on the cover of the first
on the
one?
cover of the original. It's more
This is a generic-
animated,
yeah,
generic looking
It's a
thing.
Conan looking guy. Of
Yeah.
course, you're covered in armor though, so I don't get that.
And
Does your armor come
Fabio-
off, though?
No.
When
Yeah.
you die, it's the best animation. You get knocked on your back and your legs swings over the edge of the level.
Oh yeah, it's really
So-
crazy.
so
Yeah,
that-
like you're dead and your legs all limp. It's like
Oh, I do remember that.
There's
Oh,
really
that was cool.
gross ways to die in that game. Like you can get destroyed by bees. Like you hit a beehive and like 50 bees just hitting you. And it's like and your leg twitches. It's really nasty.
No, but the cover to Iron Sword also got. Did it get a Nintendo Power cover? I want to say it did.
No, it has.
Maybe.
The game came with a poster, and
Oh,
the Nintendo
that's
Power
what I'm
had a
thinking of.
poster also.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. All right,
You know,
but I was about to say,
in case
like,
you were
poster.
8 years old and you wanted a man in his underwear holding a sword.
My friend just
hey,
got-
Conan the Barbarian was in its peak around that
That's
time.
true,
That was
that's
smart
true.
marketing
My buddy
right
just
there.
got his poster signed by Fabio.
Oh,
His Iron
okay.
Sword poster.
There you
That's
go.
awesome.
Really cool.
That's
I wonder
gotta
what Fabio was thinking
that is
when he
such
signed
a
it.
weird
He was like,
footnote
oh.
on his career is that like once a year, there's an hour where there aren't giant old fat ladies being like, remember that romance novel you you did? And it's just a giant old fat gamer dude, and he's like, hey, remember the Wizards and Warriors 2? And he's like, oh god.
Remember that bird hit you in the face?
Yeah, remember that time a bird hit you in the face?
That was the best.
One of life's greatest moments.
I remember the picture.
When a goose exploded on Fabio.
One of the most amazing on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
One of the most amazing things that has ever happened in the history of humanity.
Isn't there a picture of him bleeding when he gets off of it?
Well, I
And
think
he's
he's
surrounded
covered
by
in
models.
goose blood.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
My apologies go out to any of Fabio's friends and family listening.
He was
come on.
fine. He was fine. He's Fabio.
It was fine. And I bet you Fabio's friends and family was like, wait a minute, Fabio, what happened to you this weekend? And he was like, I was on a roller coaster and a dove crashed into my nose. And they were probably like, that is hilarious. That's more than like, come on. I mean, that is a game of Clue where you're like, Fabio on the roller coaster with the bird. That's the best combination of things that has ever happened.
And the
Are you
sequel
kidding me?
to Wizards and Warriors, and somewhat in Wizards and Warriors, they did this thing that Mega Man 2 did the best also, where they took a big animal. And in Wizards and Warriors 2, it was like this big god that you talk to, like a big frog, or like this like wind god, or there's a big eagle, and they just drew this giant background art thing, like the lion. Or the fish in Mega Man 2.
Right.
And it's just like, it was beautifully designed and just like big and colorful and awesome. And it's just like, that was when the NES hit its graphical like masterpiece era.
Yeah.
I just love that.
There was an awesome power up in Wizards and Warriors called it was like the
scrolls.
cloak of disappearing or something. And you just straight up turned invisible.
Yeah.
You could not see your character. You were jumping around. You were.
I just love how the name didn't hide that at all.
Oh no! Yeah, there was no.
You knew what you were
secrets there.
getting.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
got power-ups to make you jump higher and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was like,
No, that was a really good looking game. I'll never forget seeing either ads or either on television or still like pictures inside of magazines of that game and going, "Wow, that night looks amazing."
And it was
Like,
another.
that
It was,
looks
like,
so
it
good.
was like you mentioned before. It was another one of those games with like really dark, weird themes. Like you'd beat a boss and it would go like, and there'd be a woman hanging from a rope by her arms. Like she's just been strung up there for years. And you'd come in and you'd cut her down and she'd hit the ground and it'd be like, you saved Esmeralda. And she's like, oh, fuck, thank you so much. And you just walk by and be like, yeah, later, bitch. And you go on to the next one. Like it was so weird. It was so weird.
All right, so
English.
let's get one or two more in, and then we got to move on because we actually went over. But I do want Colin and Sam to participate in question block segment real fast after this. So, any more games left that we want to cover real fast?
Yeah, real quick. I just want to give a quick shout out to my third game is Baseball Stars
There you
from
go.
SNK. Now, the thing about Baseball Stars is that game was extraordinarily ahead of its time for sports games, and I mean significantly ahead of its time. Think about NHL games, for instance. NHL 94 is a very popular game, right? So Baseball Stars came out in 1989. When you played NHL 94, it was exhibition mode, and you can play playoffs, but you had to keep the system on, otherwise it would forget everything. There was no season mode. There was no, nothing, right? Baseball Stars had season mode. You can create your own teams. You paid your own teams. You could upgrade your players.
Yep.
It was extraordinary. That game is so good. That is still one of the.
Did it have real stats? Was it real people?
No, so it wasn't real people. It wasn't licensed. There was lovely ladies was one of the teams. It had female characters, which was cool.
Was that the one with the bunny?
The bunny.
The baseball game with the was it?
I don't think so. Maybe one of the teams might have been like
Was the
animals.
label
baseball
green
rabbit?
with red writing on it?
No, it was yellow and blue the box, and it had just a
Okay.
normal dude playing
So
baseball.
many damn baseball games.
But Baseball Stars to me is arguably the single best sports game of all time, simply because it's really fun. It's a very fun game to play, but it was so ridiculously deep. The minutia of that game was unbelievable. Paying you had a payroll. You could pay your players. You can make a player or trade, get rid of players and hire new players. And it had a whole. It would keep your stats for your season and your individual stats, your RBI, your home runs, your singles, all that kind of stuff. I was like, this is awesome.
It's nuts when you compare it to baseball, which was the Nintendo made NES game,
or
which was
RBI
just,
baseball,
or RBI baseball,
which plays great, but it's just simplistic.
Yeah, it was
exactly.
so simple. I mean, a lot of the sports games back then. So every now and then you'd get one like that was just wow, these guys went in deep.
It was unbelievable. It had a battery in it, so it saved all this stuff, and I'm sure that's a reason why some of these other games didn't. You had to charge a little bit more to get that. But it really wasn't sports games because I played every year on SNES. I played NHL every year. I bought Madden every year, and then I'd buy random baseball games like Roger Clemens MVP Baseball, whatever the hell that was called. Yeah. And so I played a lot of sports games at that time, and it really took 7 or 8 years for games to literally catch up to what Baseball Stars was doing on the NES.
Yeah.
I really go and play Baseball Stars. I think it's available. You buy it on. I don't know if it's on Virtual Console. You can play it on PSP. I think the Neo Geo version of it.
There you go.
Does it look?
I think it's I think it's just prettier graphics, but the same idea. And Baseball Stars 2 was a sequel that was definitely not as good at all. Very similar to Metal Gear 2. So, Baseball Stars. Really, Baseball Stars to me is an extraordinary, really one of my favorite NES games.
Okay.
And I really just love the history of it in terms of like how it just embarrassed every other sports game for years.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Years. I think it wasn't until NHL 96 on SNES or Genesis that it even had a battery in it.
Okay.
You know? Like, so it's like, damn, like take your notes, man,
Yeah,
because
right.
SNK was schooling EA. So yeah, that's why I want to bring up Baseball Stars.
Sam, you want to toss out one more, or are we good?
Well, I just in terms of like the 25 baseball games that exist, there's also a really good game called Dusty Diamonds All-Star Softball, which is like also has it's like about a bunch of like backyard kids, but they're monsters, and each level it's like Zombie Nation all over again, isn't it, for me right here? Like one of the levels has like a big cliff you can fall off of, and like I don't know, it's just like a fantasy crazy baseball game. Nobody does stuff like that anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Like the fantasy sports games. Super Dodgeball is also really good.
Yep. Or they had ones with robots. I remember that too.
I have 200 games to recommend. I'll keep
Yeah.
it. One bootleg game. Let me do one bootleg game. B-52. It's a really cool silver cart bootleg game that has like it's like a side-scrolling game where you're like in a macro environment. You know, like it's like a macrocosm. So like all the grass blades are huge and stuff like that. I really like stuff like that.
And the
graphics are
soundtrack is Rome if you want to. No.
Rock Lobster.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and we wrote it years ago, and we probably should update it. We should actually maybe schedule to update it. But you can read the top 100 NES games of all time on IGN.
There you go.
you can read my top 400 games of all time on IGN.
Yeah. We took different tacks on that. I did 25, but like very deep.
Yeah, you kicked it off.
and then you just didn't write
write any of
anything, and you just wrote a list of games.
There you go.